Folks, you can find a seat. We're going to get started here in just a moment. Good evening. Welcome to the Howell County News County Collector Debate. I'm Amanda Mendez. I'm the publisher and owner of Howell County News. Can't hear me? How about now? Okay. So I'm the publisher and owner of Howell County News. I'm Amanda Mendez. I'm also going to be serving as the moderator this evening. And if you will, I think we're going to begin with a prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for our country. We thank you for the freedom to be able to choose our leaders in fair elections. For every elected official who is here tonight, we pray that he or she will just seek your will in everything they do. Bless the 4 candidates who are present with us here tonight. They're offering their time and their talent for us all, and we deserve your favor. Be with us all tonight in everything that we say and we do. Make it for your greater glory. Through our Lord Jesus Christ, your Son, in the name of the Holy Spirit. Amen. We're going to begin with an introduction from the 2 candidates for circuit clerk. There are 2 candidates on the ballot this year. We have the independent Shanna Earls and the Republican incumbent Cynthia Lee. Ms. Earls, will you begin? 2 minutes.
Good evening. First off, let me say thank you for coming out tonight. When citizens commit to learning about their candidates and making good educated decisions about the people they choose to allow to serve their communities, those communities thrive. This election will potentially have a profound effect on the future of our county, and I'm proud that we have so many engaged citizens here tonight. My name is Shanna Earls. My family and I are lifelong Howell County residents, and although I am a conservative Republican, I am excited to be running for Howell County Circuit Clerk as an independent candidate. The position of the Circuit Clerk is the elected official responsible for maintaining complete and accurate records of the court, collecting, accounting for, and dispersing all monies paid into the court, and performing other duties as necessary to assist the court in performing its duties. I believe it is the responsibility of the Circuit Clerk to serve our citizens and ensure that the clerk's office is run efficiently and fair above all. For the last 19 years, I have had the honor of learning the path of this position while working for multiple exemplary leaders who have served in every capacity, from circuit clerks to elected circuit judges. I believe that maintaining relationships and opportunities for continuing education keeps my skills sharp and provides a strong network of peers. During my 19 years of service, I have mastered many aspects of the job. But most importantly, I have learned that the clerk's office is not about politics, but it is about the people and the citizens of Howell County. I currently serve as a supervisor in the clerk's office. I also volunteer as a member and regional officer to the Missouri Professional Association of Court Clerks. I feel my experience, knowledge, and ability to lead by example will make me the best candidate for the position as circuit clerk. If elected as your circuit clerk, I vow to commit myself and my staff to process legal documents in a timely, effective manner while providing outstanding service with courtesy, efficiency, and
that is your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next we have Cynthia Lee. She is the incumbent in the circuit clerk position. She's the Republican candidate on the ballot. Mrs. Lee, 2 minutes.
Good evening. My name is Cynthia Lee, and I am your Republican candidate for Howell County Circuit Clerk. In late June of this year, Governor Parson appointed me to serve as Circuit Clerk upon the retirement of my predecessor. I'm a 4th-generation resident of Howell County, the daughter of James and Linda Eads. I am married to Troy Lee, who operates a driveline business here in West Plains. We are the parents of 2 wonderful children who have followed in our footsteps, attending Glenwood Elementary and West Plains High School. I began my career with Missouri Judiciary 22 years ago and have worked in all aspects of the court, including criminal, civil, family court, probate, and jury selection. I held the position of Chief Financial Deputy for 5 years. In 2019, I was chosen to serve a statewide civil focus group as a member. I'm also a member of the Missouri Circuit Clerks Association. The Circuit Clerk's Office is a business office of the court. In addition to accepting new case filings, scheduling dockets, assisting judges in court, and issuing documents like the ever-popular jury duty notices, our office is responsible for collecting and dispersing fines, court costs, and filing fees, handling over $1 million each year. The circuit clerk must be capable of keeping the books balanced and ready for audit at any time. I am the supervisor of 14 deputy clerks. I'm responsible for the inventory in 5 courtrooms, 4 judges' chambers, 3 division offices, and 16 workstations. I have also worked closely with computer technicians from Jefferson City and serve as our local IT contact. The duties of the circuit clerk are many, too many to explain fully in the time allowed tonight. As your circuit clerk, I will continue to ensure the utmost respect and fairness to every citizen needing court services. I'm asking for a vote of confidence in my work ethic, knowledge, and dedication to the people of Howell County. Thank you.
And with that, we're going to move into the county collector portion of the evening's program. Now, as many of you will know, the county collector is not a policy-making position. So in a very real sense, the traditional debate format isn't going to work so well here because it's not as if they can debate the policies that they would undertake as county collector. So some of the questions that we have are going to be more of a forum type format where there is a correct answer. It is a technical answer about the discharge of the office. Some of the questions are going to be more about their personal policies, the way that they have comported themselves professionally and in service of the public. And with that, I would like to invite our candidates to take your podiums. To my left, we have Republican candidate Mark Collins. Sorry, folks, bear with us just one moment. Test, test, test. It's
Get your
Can't hear me? No. How about now?
Or.
How about now? I was in theater in high school. Can you hear me in the back? Okay. No. Just shout the entire evening. Okay, so we flipped a coin. Mrs. Crow has elected to go first. And our first question, Mrs. Crow, is describe the taxation process in Howell County from the assessor's office to the county clerk's office. I thought we were doing open mistakes. Right for once tonight. Mrs. Crow, 1 minute and 30.
Hi, I want to thank everybody for coming tonight. I know it's valuable time that you're spending. I certainly appreciate it. I am Janet Crow. I am running for the office of Howell County Collector. I grew up in a John Deere store in Licking, Missouri that my parents Wesley and Patsy Kazar owned and operated. It was there that I learned at an early age that hard work, honesty, and a good work ethic would get you far in life. 38 years ago, I married West Plains native Blake Crow. We have 2 sons, 2 daughter-in-laws, and 3 grandchildren. Blake and I owned and operated Earl's Dodge Chrysler Jeep and Ram for 30 years. It is there that I learned the skills of accounting, management, leadership, computers, finance, and budgeting. Along with these skills, I bring a proven reputation of honesty and integrity to the office of collector. We sold the auto dealership in 2015 and now work full-time on the farm. I am a Christian, I am a conservative Republican, and I prove this through my actions of work that I do through United Federated Women of Howell County. I will be on the ballot as an independent due to my opponent's filing suit against the county that he works for, the election authority of Howell County, Kelly Wagner, and myself to have me removed from the Republican ballot. I ask that you listen closely to the vast differences of character and work ethic between my opponent and myself. And please vote Janet Crow on November 8th.
Mr. Collins, 1 minute 30.
Good evening. I am Mark Collins, a Republican nominee for the office of Howell County Collector of Revenue. I'm a 3rd-generation farmer, Howell County, a Zizzer, and a Howell Valley Panther. First of all, I would like to thank Amanda and the Howell County News for hosting this event. Also, thank you who all come here to attend and watching by social media tonight. This evening, I am asking for your vote and support for Howell County Collector. The County Collector's Office is one with many responsibilities. During the last tax year, the Tax Collector's Office collected and distributed $24.9 million in revenue. The operations of this administrative office are specifically laid out by the Missouri state statutes. The collector needs to understand the rule of law and capable of following the nearly 400 state statutes that governs the office. With my background in county government, I'm prepared to serve the folks of Howell County and the collector's office. At times there can be complicated tax issues. On those occasions, it is necessary for the collector to be able to assist and guide the taxpayer through what is sometimes unfamiliar a maze. My goal is to continue with the parameters of the law to provide service to the collector's office, which we have all been accustomed to, expect, and deserve. I would appreciate your consideration come November 8th for your next Howell County collector. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we jump again. So those are our opening statements. It's time to move into the debate portion. And describe the taxation process in Howell County from the assessor's office to the county clerk's office.
Okay, the assessor's duties are to discover, catalog, and appraise and assess real and personal property by July 1. The assessor gives those totals to the county clerk, who then sends the totals to the subdivisions in the county. The subdivisions then set the pass and levy to the clerk, and they must have those received there by September. The clerk certifies all the levies and reports them to the collector, thus creating the tax roll by October 31st. The collector prepares the tax bills and sends them to the taxpayers.
Do you have a rebuttal you'd like to offer, Mr. Collins?
No, it's just a matter of the assessor doing their job and the county clerk doing their job and the collector doing their job in a timely manner to get everything correct and certified.
Okay. Let's move on to our next question. Mr. Collins, how and when did you learn about the opening of the county collector position? And why did you decide to run? When?
Well, I learned about it after the filing date had started. I didn't know. I knew the present collector. He was unsure whether he was going to run, and so when he decided not to, I already had my preparations made in case he didn't, that I would run.
Okay, thank you.
Rebuttal. I did not learn about this until I was at Republican Lincoln Days on March 18th. There was a quiet whisper around the room that he would be retiring. It was U.S. Representative Jason Smith that let the cat out of the bag that night. I had been thinking for many years that I would run for office to be a public service at some point. And it was from that moment on, I had about 10 days to get it all done, cleared, and make sure this is what I wanted to do. And I decided that I would run for county collector at that point.
Okay, thank you. Okay, follow-up from the audience here tonight. Mrs. Crow, can you tell what part Sheriff Brent Campbell had in your decision to run for collector?
I would say Brent Campbell's a very good friend. I did call several friends and ask them what they thought about it, if they thought the duties that I would be able to handle would be what I wanted to in that purview. Like I said, Brent's just a good friend. I like to sound things off of him, but there's several people in this audience that I called and got the recommendations and their approval from.
Thank you. Rebuttal, Mr. Collins, 30 seconds.
Well, when the independent opponent filed, she did not evidently do her due diligence because she did not know that an affidavit was required at the time of filing. And so it leaves questions to be answered why she waited till the last hour of the last day to file and not know what the proper procedure was to file, that you had to have an affidavit by 5 o'clock that
That's
day.
your 30 seconds for your rebuttal, but let's go right into this question. This is a rear-submitted question to both candidates. So Missouri state statutes require that the recorder of deeds, county treasurer, county collector, and a public administrator, all at the time of signing up for office, must file a signed affidavit from an authorized surety company in Missouri. Did you submit the document on the day that you filed, Mrs. Crowe?
I did submit the document that was in question. It was very simple. My husband and I have been in business forever, and we've already had surety bonds. So when I found out that, well, let me back up here. When I was told the documents that I needed, I took those documents into the office of the clerk. I was not told that the collector needed this specific affidavit. When in the middle of my filing, she told me, oh, you have to have this affidavit. And I said, what do I need? And she told me that you need a surety bond affidavit, that you're bondable for the office of collector. And I said, not a problem. I've got a surety bond now. I will call my insurance company. My insurance company had that emailed to the clerk's office at 4:53 p.m. She told me that I was done at that point and that I was filed.
Rebuttal, Mr. Collins.
Yes, well, what she filed, I have right here, was an email, not an affidavit. There's quite a difference. I have her email, I have my affidavit, and I have her affidavit that she filed when she filed for independent. Anybody wants to look at them? They're right here. It's very, very obvious that there's quite a difference. I don't believe that whoever emailed it to was a certified, able to certify an affidavit. You have to be certified to be able to do that.
Thank you. Well, since we're into the meat of it now, let me ask this question, also a reader-submitted question in advance. Question from Mrs. Collins. Why did you bring a lawsuit against Mrs. Crow for her filing when the Secretary of State, Jay Ashcroft, said that the filing was correct?
Well, okay, once again, I have contacted the Secretary of State's office a couple of times. Attorneys have contacted them, and we cannot get a written opinion about this. They said it's a local matter, and it's my challenge. It wasn't a lawsuit, it was a challenge to her candidacy. So that is why I did it, because I have never seen a written opinion. People can stand up here and say, she said, he said, but until it's a written opinion, it's not. And I have not been able to get one from the Chief of Staff that I've talked with at the Secretary of State's office.
Thank you. Mrs. Crow, rebuttal.
Rebuttal. I spoke to Jay Ashcroft myself several times on the phone. He reviewed my documents after we had sent them up to his office after the lawsuit happened. He told me that my documents were in order and that I should have been filed like the clerk filed me. So I have 2 election authorities that said that my filing should have been accepted and I should be in the race on the Republican ballot. First of all, the affidavit he's talking about does not have to be notarized, and they can accept emails, especially since COVID. So the email was perfectly fine, and they do not have to be notarized. Therefore, my filing should have been accepted.
That is your time, Mrs. Crow. Thank you. All right, Mr. Collins, second part to that question is why was the county clerk, Kelly Wagner, named in the lawsuit? Why was she appointed?
Well, it's just a matter of procedural. Whenever I've been named, right now, there's a case on a county road, and the commission is named in it. I'm named in it. It's just procedural. Whoever is in the office, whoever holds the elected official of that office, they're going to be named in it.
Thank you. Rebuttal, 30 seconds.
Yes, rebuttal. Kelly Wagner is the election authority of our county. What she said should have went, and for another elected official to question her, I find quite disturbing. Yeah, I can't even go on with that one. I mean, to question the election authority, and then I would also add that Mr. Collins' paperwork was not in order also, and I have a copy of his Form 5120, and it is a form that has to be notarized. So therefore, if anybody knows anything about a notary form, you cannot sign it one day and have it notarized the next, and I have a copy of that also.
It's your time, Mrs. Crow. Thank you so much. Okay. Mr. Collins, how important is integrity to the county collector's position? What do the voters need to know about your integrity? 1 minute.
Well, it's very important. It's very important, integrity. I believe that integrity for all office holders is highly important. However, integrity is not decided by us, but by those who know us well. Integrity cannot be bought, inherited, or transferred. It must be earned. Over the past 72 years, there's only been 4 persons that have served as Howell County Collector. They are John T. Kirk, Wayne Schoenhorst, Larry Spence, and now Dennis Von Allman. We all know these names and well-respected names. I've had the opportunity to personally know each one of these men. Their integrity is undisputed by those who have known them well. Within those last 72 years, only 3 times has the office of Howell County Collector ever been contested for election. That demonstrates the confidence that Howell County residents has had in these men and the best testimony.
Your time, Mr. Collins.
I would love to earn a place on that list for those men.
Thank you, Mr. Collins. Rebuttal.
I would suggest the audits take a look at the audits reports from the last 10 years, and we will see problems with the auditor's office. My rebuttal is integrity is a quality. It is an earned quality. It is an earned integrity. It's doing the right thing all the time when nobody's watching. I've conducted my whole life being honest, trustworthy in my business life and in personal life, and I've earned the reputation of being a person of integrity.
Thank you. Mrs. Crow, 1 minute. If elected, how much time are you planning on spending in the office?
I will be spending 40 hours plus a week in that office, I am sure. It is a full-time position.
Thank you. Rebuttal, Mr. Collins.
Yes, Ms. Crowe, I know you have many properties, some as far as Licking, Missouri, and everywhere. So, you know, I've got my boy Wade's taking my spot on the farm. All these years that I've been used as commissioner, has been a part-time position. But Wade, he's taken over the farm, so I will also have the full time to do that.
Thank you very much. Okay. We have a question directly to Mr. Collins. In your 26 years in public office, how many opponents have you faced as you've run? 1 minute.
Well, let's see. I've probably eight different opponents, 8 races between primaries and general elections. I've been successful in all of them. The county has had confidence in me to serve the people. I love a good race, and I look forward to them. But it's not been a good old boys club where it's just been handed to me. I've had to earn it. So if everybody could help me out again, I'd appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Collins. Rebuttal, Mrs. Crowe.
I don't even know how you rebut that, but the Good Old Boys Club is alive and well in this room. Done.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Crowe, or Mr. Collins, is this the most contentious election that you have faced in your 26 years in county government?
Yeah, I'd say it is. The other have all been good, clean, above par races. Everybody has. I mean, we went out there and campaigned on a positive note, and so yes, this is by far the most contentious.
Thank you. Rebuttal, Mrs. Crowe.
Not being a career politician, I would have no idea what a race was supposed to look like, but this certainly hasn't turned out to be what I thought it would be. Done.
Thank you. Since we're discussing your time in the county government, Mr. Collins, I do have to let our readers know that this topic is the single most topic that was submitted to me in the process of gathering advanced questions. It was submitted to me over a dozen times, which is, Mr. Collins, how do you respond to criticisms that you've used your time in county government for your personal advantage? Now, this is the 3-part question that I prepared you for. So we can answer it in 3 parts, or you can address the 2 examples as you prefer.
How I use it to my advantage?
How do you respond to criticisms that you have?
Oh, I tell them I haven't. By anything, my farm has suffered all the time I've put in. The county commissioner's position is labeled as a part-time position, and I have dedicated it as a full-time position to promote Howell County and keep it moving forward. We're the 89 third-class counties in the state of Missouri. We're the 5th ranked, and I believe that the people of Howell County need full response and promotion to help them out here. We're 40,000 people. We're 5th largest in the state. We're 11th ranked in the assessed evaluation with 569 million. But no, I have not used it for my personal gain. If anything, I have lost because of my farm, neglected my farm.
Thank you. Mrs. Crowe, rebuttal, 30 seconds.
My rebuttal would be, I think most of these people here in the audience live on a county road, so I think they need to compare their county road to the Collins Farms county roads, and they'll know who has lost and who has suffered.
Okay, so the 2 examples that are part of this 3-part question that I think many of my readers would like you to address specifically are the closure of the Howell County office building and parking lot that has been closed for the last year. That was something the commission voted on over a year ago. And how do you respond to that action?
Yes, that was a commission decision. We were doing that about the time that COVID hit. Okay, we had to have and the merchants had come to us for the last 15 years wanting some parking spaces available for their customers because the county employees were taking up the parking spaces. So in an effort to do that, we decided to close that, have a safe place for COVID related, and give 911. They have employees that come in at night And so they needed a safe place. But another thing is, more than once, people have been caught downstairs and being very, very friendly, if I might add. And so in an effort to do that and to keep the graffiti from being wrote all over the walls, that is another reason why we closed it. It was a commission decision. It wasn't my decision. It was a commission decision.
Thank you, Mr. Collins. Mrs. Crowe, rebuttal, 30 seconds.
My rebuttal would be what you effectively did was shut out some businesses and make them close and take their parking away.
Thank you. Okay, and this is third part of this three-part question is about the ARPA funds that were allocated to a business that your family owns. How would you respond to that criticism that we received?
Yes. Yep. ARPA funds were distributed through Osby down here. We give them so much money to do due diligence on applications, and they did, and they even scrutinized more. A lot of them even more than normal. They called attorneys, asked their opinions, and it would be no different than Miss Crowe getting grants for her farm from the county government. You know, it's everybody's available to do it if they meet the qualifications. And Osby was a third-party administrator, which we paid to do it because we didn't have time to really go through the due diligence of every county or every application and be fair about it. I did abstain. I did abstain from that. I did not take part in that. That motion was made by
That is your time.
Commissioner Bill Lovelace, who is now deceased.
Thank you, Mr. Collins. Rebuttal, Mrs. Crowe, 30
You just stated that you couldn't be fair about it if you accepted the applications yourself. That's pretty questionable. It's the CARES plan, by the way, not the ARPA plan that you awarded the money for. And you gave Osby $68,000 to implement that, and I still don't understand why 3 commissioners couldn't sit there and go through those applications and take care of business.
Thank you. All right, this next question is directly to Mrs. Crowe, submitted by a reader. Mrs. Crowe, I find it unsettling that you insinuate county collector is a law-making position to people who may not know any better. Why do you portray it as anything other than a service job? 1 minute.
I have no idea what this person is talking about. The collector's job would not make law. That's totally understood. I find it, if they're talking about my Facebook post and things that I've made recently, it's about the transparency or lack of it in our county.
Okay, thank you. Let's switch gears for a second and talk about the discharge of the duties of the collector's office. Mr. Collins, do you plan to retain the current staff in the collector's office? 1 minute.
Absolutely. I approached them a day or two after I filed, and I said, yes, they do a great job. They understand their job, and absolutely I'm going to retain them.
Thank you. Hello, Mrs. Crowe?
The staff is the lifeblood of this office. It would be a huge disservice to the citizens of Howell County and the employees to terminate them. I would absolutely retain every one of them 100%.
Thank you. Mrs. Crowe, have you promised a job to anyone?
Absolutely not. You have to get the job first.
Mr. Collins, same question. Have you promised a job to anyone?
The only job I promised was to the current staff that if I got elected, that I would retain them.
Thank you very much. Mrs. Crowe, what is your plan on the first day in office if you are elected? Specifically, what will you do first?
The first day in office, I would meet with the current collector, and what we would do is we would count the cash drawers. We would take a manual physical accounting of the cash drawers and any petty cash on site, and then we would look at the checkbook of the collector, and I would want to know every amount of money there is, because I will be responsible for every single penny that there is. I will then meet with the staff, and we will just have a good discussion, get to know each other, and find out what each and everybody is really good and capable of doing.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Collins, 1 minute, same question. Specifically, what will you do on your first day in office as county collector?
Well, first day in office, there would not be anything happening if you did not start months before and make preparations for all the codes and the things that lead up to being able to do anything the first day in office. A lot of people would just be standing around. The collector's got to file 2 copies of the bond with the county clerk. The clerk will file one at the county clerk's office and forward one to the Missouri Director of Revenue. That's section 52-030. In section 52-040.1 of the revised statutes, the Director of Revenue will review the bond, and if found it confirms the law, the Director of Revenue will file the bond with the Secretary of State. Then the Secretary of State will certify the fact back to the county clerk. The new collector will not be permitted to receive any tax books until this process is completed. If the collector does not do this, they will forfeit the office. Although a smooth transition period.
It's your time, Mr. Collins. Thank you. Okay, rebuttal. Mrs. Crowe, rebuttal? No. Mrs. Crowe, specifically who in the collector's office will make bank deposits on behalf of your office each week? 1 minute.
I will be making the bank deposits, and it says in the statutes that if you need to make those bank deposits daily in a third-class division unless they're under $100.
Thank you. Mr. Collins, same question, 1 minute.
Yes, I would make the deposits daily. They are daily, not weekly. But if, in case I am not there, one of the deputy collectors would take my spot to do that.
Mr. Collins, the collector's office operates on a collector's year. What are the dates that make up the collector's year?
Okay, from March 1st, the collector's year ends on the first Monday in March. However, the Missouri Department of Revenue collector's annual settlement is for March 1 through February 28th and 29th.
Thank you. Follow up to Mrs. Crowe. What day will the current collector's term end?
The current collector's term will end on the first Monday in March.
Thank you. Mr. Collins, since the collector's office generates and distributes a substantial amount of money and must be bonded, how is the collector's bond secured?
In Howell County, we have to have the maximum bond, which is $750,000, and it is secured by lien on my property.
Thank you. Mrs. Crowe, any rebuttal?
I would just add that the bond is secured by purchasing it through a surety bonding company. This ensures that the taxpayers' interests are protected and that the public officials guarantee to act in an honest and faithful manner. That is what a surety bond is.
Thank you. Mrs. Crowe, when a tax statement payment is received late, penalties and/or interest are added to the statement. Can you describe a situation in which the collector should waive the penalties or interest? 1 minute.
Yep. In looking up the statute, there's a statute 52-23, and it calls for system failures by the office. Mailed less than 30 days out would also be a reason to not penalize them, or if the county made an error or omission determining the taxes, and that follows statute and law.
Rebuttal, Mr. Collins.
Well, yeah, the penalties and fees cannot be waived unless they are incorrectly calculated. If they are waived, the collector pays it.
Thank you, Mr. Collins. Okay. Jumping back into Mrs. Crowe. What do you think about the Howell County collector's salary being higher than it is in most of the state? This is a reader submitted question.
Okay.
1 minute.
I believe the high-paying salary of the collector's office is what sets this office up to be transitional succession plan for the career politicians in our county. Just look at the past history of those who have held the collector's position. The current collector held the clerk's position for 35 years. Now my opponent has been on the commission for 26 years. So why would they want to not choose to stay in their current position to serve their community? The answer is the high-paying commission contracts that pad the salary, that set them up for a better retirement. This is the one topic that our community deserves transparency on.
Thank you. Mr. Collins, rebuttal, 30 seconds.
What was the question again?
The question is, what do you think about the Howell County collector's salary being higher than it is in most of the state?
Well, I think it's well-deserved. You know, you don't have a risk without rewards. You got your land up for a lien that could be taken away from you. So there is, you have substantially, you're in care of, like in this case, over $29 million. So I could see where it could be higher than others.
Thank you. That is your time. Mr. Collins, knowing that the county collector has the additional contractual duty to collect taxes, not only for the county, but also for municipalities in the area, can you explain what you intend to do with the money that is owed to the collector's office from said municipal governments? 1 minute.
Well, first of all, the question is not quite accurate. The collector does not collect taxes for all the municipalities within the county. West Plains and Willow Springs, Mountain View, and Brandonville do not have any property taxes. Even though this is probably an innocent question, it would be hard for me to address this question since Section 115, 637 of Revised Statutes of Missouri provides that a candidate, it would be not an election offense for me to promise to reduce the salary. On the part of any candidate for election of any office of honor, trust, offering, or promising to discharge the duties of such office for a less sum than the salary, fees, or emoluments as fixed by law, or promising to pay back or donate any of the public or private interest, any portion of any salary. So in other words, it's against the law to talk about it.
Thank you. Mrs. Crowe, rebuttal.
Okay. I called Jay Ashcroft's office because I had found that statute too, and I asked him specifically that question. And I told him, I said, if I want to talk about renegotiating this contract, is that going to get me in trouble? Because I knew right where this was going. And he said no. So here's what I think about the 3% that the collector gets paid for doing nothing. I think it's refreshing for your cities and counties to have a good working relationship. These contractual agreements from 1988 and 1990 were signed by the collector, the mayor, and for the county to collect real.
That's your time.
Okay, we'll get that one later.
Yeah, well, let's go right into it. Mrs. Crowe, are you for or against terminating the municipal contracts that add to the salaries? What are the pros and cons of keeping those duties?
We will continue on with that. So I would renegotiate these contracts, and here's why. I've just told you that the contracts were from 1988 and 1990. The collector's contract states to compensate the Howell County collector for services provided by him at a rate of 3% of the total amount of taxes collected by the collector for the city, and the penalty of 2% for delinquent taxes. In addition, Howell County, Missouri gets 1% for those taxes collected. I do not think that any elected official should get 3% to their payroll. I just don't believe in it. There is a statute, or not really statute, but the collector's office is supposed to make $60,554, but there's all these contractual things. I don't think that we should be double taxing the citizens of West Plains and Willow Springs. 3%. I think the cities or county can do more with it. I just do not think it should belong in the salary of an elected official.
Well, if we quit collecting the taxes for the cities, it would cost the city of Willow Springs tens of thousands of dollars. They would have to have their own collector, their own software, their own office, their own postage and everything. The programs for collecting taxes is very specific and they're expensive. There has never been in the last 40 years any of the cities come to a collector and request this.
Thank you, Mr. Collins. Mr. Collins, what role did the collector's salary play in your decision to run the position? 1 minute.
Well, yes, it did have some, because as a commissioner, which I devote first full time to, it made $42,000. The collector makes a little over $60,000. So yes, it did have some. But what impacted my decision to run for the office most was I willing to devote full attention to the collector's office? Was I willing to accept a high degree of personal liability involved to serve as a collector? It was going to be an open seat. The collector does not wear as many hats as the presiding commissioner. As presiding commissioner, I sit on workforce development, economic development, then you have workforce development. There's many things go along with being a commissioner and doing it right. I knew what the salary is. It contributed to some decision, but it was not a determining factor.
Thank you, Mr. Thomas. Mrs. Crowe, rebuttal.
Rebuttal. I would once again reiterate that the salary is $60,554 is the base salary. When you add all these compensations from all these special contracts, it gets you into a six-figure salary plus insurance plus benefits. And when you go into that kind of money, you will pad your retirement and you can live a lifetime on that retirement because it will substantially be going up with that kind of salary.
Thank you. Mrs. Crowe, this is a question submitted from the audience this evening. Let's talk transparency. Recently, you posted a photo of you and several community people at a gathering with Secretary of State Jay Ashcroft. Why was this visit not made public so that our county leaders could attend? And why was Sheriff Brent Campbell the only county official invited?
I wouldn't think that I would have to invite everybody when people are coming to town. Jay Ashcroft called me and he wanted to take a farm visit, and it rained that day, so we went to the the Boat Pace Center. We wouldn't watch the welding because he's a welder, so I wouldn't think that I would have to call people and ask them to any kind of meeting with when I have friends and people coming in. So I have no idea why.
Mr. Collins, rebuttal.
Well, a lot of times elected officials from state or even Washington, D.C., when they come into town, they don't make announcements. But I know that there were some people that was at that gathering that was kind of surprised at it and at its content.
Thank you.
Rebuttal?
No, I'm afraid not. Mr. Collins, what are two accomplishments that you have done as commissioner that will help you as collector? 1 minute.
Well, being in county government and being a public servant for the last 26 years and seeing how things work, some accomplishments, we bought the old Bank of America building, or else we'd all still be crowded up in the courthouse, as you can see. That was a great purchase. We purchased that for $975,000, over 25,000 square feet, parking garages, and then we leased it back to Bank of America for $100,000. New York lease prices, $100,000 a year. They did that for 10 years. They bought the building for the county. It was a great move for the commissioners at that time when we did that. That's one of the great, I can see other counties sitting around and they're just struggling and looking for office space all around the square, and so they can have it all together.
Thank you. Mrs. Crowe, rebuttal.
Nothing to rebut.
Mrs. Crowe, with which political party are you registered and affiliated? That is a reader-submitted question.
I do not believe there's any way in the state of Missouri that you actually register. I do know when I go into the polls that I always grab the Republican ballot in August. It is proven through my work with these lovely ladies on the front row, the United Federated Republican Women of Howell County. They know where I stand. They know I'm conservative Republican. It is not questioned.
Thank you. Mr. Collins?
What was the question again?
With which political party are you registered and affiliated?
Oh, Republican, definitely a Republican all the way.
Okay. And then going back, this is another reader-submitted question. Mrs. Crowe, as a Republican, why could you not comply with the filing requirements to run with your party? And should voters place our confidence in you to meet timely deadlines in the position of Howell County Collector?
And I will reiterate again, I was told by the clerk's office the documents to bring in. I brought in precisely what they told me I needed to have for file for an office. I arrived at 4:02. I had to wait in line for another person to finish filing. I brought in the documents that I was told by the clerk's office. It was then that I was told the Office of Collector had a special letter of bondability that I needed. The clerk explained that to me. I called my insurance company, and they sent the letter via email, like I said before, at 4:53 p.m. it arrived. The clerk told me that I was filed, that I would be on the August ballot, and if it had not for my opponent running around the office having a fit and bullying and harassing and outburst against myself and the staff, I would have been out of there before 5:02. And then I have to question, if there would have been someone else behind me waiting to file, would they have been allowed to file? Because I know they don't kick you out of voting booths when the time's up. So I question this whole process.
Mr. Collins, rebuttal.
Well, once again, waited to the last minute of the last hour of the last day, or the last hour of the last day to do this, and she did not know what needed to be done. Once again, I have this document. Anybody wants to look at it? An email was all that was sent. It was not an affidavit, and I consulted with several attorneys and retired people from the law profession, and that's why I went ahead and filed the challenge, because they said that I was correct.
Thank you, Mr. Collins. Mr. Craig. Let's get back into this. So this is a question that's been submitted by someone here tonight, sort of addressing Mrs. Crow's contention that it was somewhat personal. So if there had been other candidates, if it had been someone besides Janet Crow in the office, would you have behaved the same way? Would you have filed a lawsuit against them? Was it personal? 1 minute.
No, it wasn't personal. I'd have filed it against anybody if they had not complied with the law. Why does anybody have to compete with somebody? A truck driver has to have a CDL license. Why should they have to compete against the truck driver that doesn't have a CDL license? Certified welders, why do they have to compete with welders that don't meet the certifications to do their welding job? All I want to do is compete against a person with the like credentials that I have.
Mrs. Crow, about 30 seconds.
My rebuttal would be that he was so desperate to run unopposed that he would have done anything to get anybody off the ballot against him. And when I got a chance to look at his paperwork, like I said, his paperwork was not correct either. His 5120 form was not notarized properly. So I could have had him tossed for that too, except I didn't go the route to sue anybody. That's the difference between my character and his.
Thank you. This is a question that was submitted today. When the lawsuit was pending, a notice to take the deposition of Janet Crow was filed on May 10th. And then on May 11th, you filed a voluntary withdrawal as a Republican candidate. Were you forced to withdraw from the Republican primary?
I knew by the dates the lawyer or the judge had set to be put on the ballot that there was no way I was ever going to get on that August ballot. The judge set the date the day before the ballot was to be set. I could see no way, shape, or form I was ever going to get on that ballot. When he set the date at that last minute, then there was no reason, there was no way that I could have possibly ever got on the ballot, because the deadline would have passed to withdraw. I could have not have went the petition route. I promised all of you guys I would be on this ballot and I would run, and that's exactly the steps that I took to get here.
Mr. Collins, rebuttal.
Well, there was a similar case in Jefferson County. Michelle Worth was the sitting county clerk or county collector, and a candidate was allowed to file, didn't have all the proper paperwork, said she had it, bring it in the next day. She didn't, and so it went to the courts, and the courts filed in favor of the collector, but the defendant filed a motion, a procedural motion to.
Mr. Collins, I'm going to stay on this topic, so I'm going to ask Mrs. Crow, do you have any prior knowledge, or were you following this Jefferson County case?
Absolutely not. No.
Okay. Rebuttal, 30 seconds.
Rebuttal on that.
So she didn't have any prior knowledge of the Jefferson County case. Rebuttal.
Yeah, it was going on. It was going on at the same time that ours was. Procedural, went to a court of appeals, and what happened there? Both candidates got to stay on the ballot simply because they ran out of time. Just like in a football game, they ran out of time, so they both got to stay on there, and the sitting collector won. If she would have stayed on the ballot, she might have got the same thing, but she chose to get off the ballot.
Thank you. Okay. This is a question that was submitted tonight, Mrs. Crow. Why do you think you can serve the people of Howell County in a full-time position as Howell County Collector when you cannot maintain your property to city standards in Licking, Missouri? 1 minute.
You have to be kidding me with who would even ask that question. How low can you go? That is my comment. I have no idea what they're talking about. Yeah.
Rebuttal, Mr. Collins?
None.
None? Okay, great. All right, this is another question that was submitted from the audience tonight. Mr. Collins, looking at how the CARES and ARPA money is distributed, how can we trust that you will not show favoritism to some as collector? Let me repeat that. Looking at how the CARES and ARPA money was distributed, how can we trust that you will not show favoritism to some as collector?
Well, first of all, the CARES and ARPA money did not show favoritism to anybody. They applied and they due diligence, whether it was by the county commission, not by me, but by the county commission or by OSB and their board. And the collector's funds, you have very specific statutes how that's distributed. You cannot do anything with that. There's checks and balances. It has to, you just can't do anything with it. It's very statute driven.
Thank you. Oh, Mrs. Crowe.
I would say, going back to this CARES Act, when they let OSB distribute this and do the applications, I believe what I've heard from most of the people was the fact that no businesses really knew about this. And if you try to research and look back when this all came about, it was not advertised out there till mid-October. I know there's several people said we didn't know a thing about it. So I think it was lack of marketing, lack of transparency and advertising to the people in the public that knew this was even going on. So they felt like they did not even have a chance. They felt like people that were closely involved or related with the county would be the ones that knew about it. So that's a response I've had from the public. That's all.
Okay, Mr. Collins, what do you think is the most effective way to publish the annual land sale announcement?
Well, by statute, it has to be publicized in the paper of general circulation within the county. Sure, it can be advertised on internet, Facebook, or other papers, but you're adding to the cost of the sale of that piece of that parcel, which in some cases the parcels are not worth anything. So you have to be very careful how you advertise that as not to overprice it, or the county will end up with it.
Thank you. Mrs. Crowe, rebuttal.
The statute clearly states you must be printed in a newspaper of general circulation. It must be 3 consecutive times, 15 days before the 4th Monday in August. I also think you can really cheaply incorporate social media into advertising to people these lands that are available. That would be how I do it.
That is all the questions that we've had submitted to the dais this evening. If there are any additional questions that would like to come in, I'll take those now. But otherwise, I'm going to move into my final question of the evening before we go into closing statements. Yes.
The question I have is, when did you take the questions from the audience?
I was taking them as folks were coming in. They were being handed index cards. How about we take a 5-minute break, and anyone who would like to come up and get an index card, let's do that now. 5-minute break. Thank you.
You know, she bet. I'm too damn I'm pretty good.
Lobby is behind you. There are snacks in the back. Take advantage.
Shave again. Yeah, okay. Yeah. Research. I'm gonna push this in here. Not this time.
You're okay. You can go ahead and, oh, thank you.
Folks, if we can start finding seats ready to get started again. Very effective, thank you. Let's take a seat, we're gonna get started again in a moment.
She's still busy. She's still.
Keep working on it.
Welcome back, everyone. I understand that this mic is very hard to hear. They're telling me this is the loudest that we can make it, so I'm just going to try to shout into the mic. Welcome back, folks. I'm so pleased to see such a turnout. And I just want to say that everything that's being discussed here doesn't matter at all if we don't show up to vote on November 8th. If we don't vote. It's just vitriol for vitriol's sake. So let's get to the polls, folks. Okay, so our first question from this second gathering from the audience is for Mr. Collins. Given the negative effects on the collector race following the questionable lawsuit against Mrs. Crow, would Mr. Collins, if given the chance, have changed your decision and allow a clean and fair election? I guess if you could go back and do it differently, would you have skipped over the lawsuit and just run an election in the Republican primary? If you could go back and do it differently. 1 minute.
Nope, because I filed it because she was not a legal candidate. I filed it for procedural reasons. Nope, I'm sticking to my guns. That's what I've always done is I've been commissioner, stuck with my guns. So I stick with them now. The only thing that I may have changed my mind, my wife Ruby come down with breast cancer. Right there in the beginning of all this. If I'd have known that before I filed, I probably would not have filed. I probably would have stayed there. But it's been a challenge, but we've worked through it. She got to ring the bell here a few weeks ago.
All right.
My rebuttal is that Mark Collins is not the election authority. Kelly Wagner is the election authority of our county. She ruled that my filing was correct, and we will stand up on that.
Okay, this next question submitted from the audience tonight has a curse word in it, so I'm not going to read it aloud. But I think you'll get my gist. Mrs. Crow, in my visit with you, we discussed many things. And you stated that you were, and I quote, one tough. Do you still think this is true? The word starts with a V. 1 minute.
I think anybody can be a tough broad or whatever word you want to use there. So I will stick to my guns, and my guns are loaded.
Mr. Collins.
No rebuttal.
No rebuttal. Okay. Wow. Okay. Mr. Collins, as a man with Christian values, how do you justify suing your opponent? 1 minute.
I did not sue her. I challenged her. There's a difference. A challenge, she did not meet the qualifications of what the statute said. 52-010. The candidate shall present to the election authority a copy of a signed affidavit from a surety company, not an email, authorized to do business in the state, indicating that the candidate meets the statutory bond requirements for office for which the candidate is filing. She produced that affidavit 35 days after the deadline of March 29th, May 3rd. I have it right here. May 3rd is when the legal document was finally presented.
Thank you.
Well, we're still beating the dead horse here, but once again, my opponent is not the election authority. The election authority stated my filing was correct, and I will stick to that, and we'll just move on.
Okay, great. Mrs. Crowe, this is, I think, a question for both candidates, so I think you're both going to get 1 minute to answer it. Tell me why I should vote for you. What makes you qualified within the community? 1 minute, Mrs. Crowe.
My qualifications and skills will stand for themselves. The way that I've proved myself in this community over the last 40 years that I've been there stands on every person and being that I am. My qualities, the group of women that I work with, how I've conducted myself in business, I will stand on the integrity that I have.
Thank you. Mr. Collins, you have 1 minute.
Yes, as many of you can see, I have a passion for county government. I love Howell County. I have and I always will. I love my job. And I cannot, it's just been great to be able to promote Howell County all over the state. I've been the president of the County Commissioners Association, all 114 counties. I was president of our Regional Commissioners Association up till recently, that's 17 counties. But I wanted to make sure that people knew where Howell County was in this state and what we stood for down here. Now people do, and I have a passion. I have a passion for it. I love it.
Thank you, Mr. Collins. If Mr. Collins were elected and made a costly mistake with taxpayers' money, is his farm worth $750,000, $100,000 to repay the county?
Well, I guess the bond writer, he wouldn't issue that bond if it wasn't. I'm no real estate agent. I'm no appraiser, so I assume that it would be.
Rebuttal, Mrs. Crowe?
There's no rebuttal on that. It's a dumb question.
Other counties increased law enforcement funding with federal grant money. Howell County had a vote for a law enforcement tax increase. Why? You begin, Mrs. Crowe, 1 minute.
Okay, say that again.
Other counties increased law enforcement funding with federal grant money. Howell County had a vote for a law enforcement tax increase. Why?
I honestly don't know the answer to that. I know that the sheriff was having a hard time getting funds for his office, and this is what I've heard in the past, so he went the route to go ahead and get a sales tax where it would go to his people. That's about all I know about that, so I'm sure the commissioner would know.
Mr. Collins, would you like 1 minute for this one?
Sure.
Go ahead.
Yes, we used CARES Act money. We give them $500,000 for new computers. ARPA money, we bought more computers and stuff, spent over another $1 million. In fact, just today we approved another $577,000 and the $398,000 of it is going to the law enforcement. But yes, we did pass a tax. There's counties that use this ARPA money and CARES Act money for increased salaries. What are they going to do next year when they don't have that money? They're banking. They are banking that sales tax revenue is going to go up, and it's going down. So they're going to have a bunch of people who are going to have to pay it, not have the money to pay it. So we were far behind on our tax revenue for the law enforcement. So I was very proud of the citizens of Howell County to vote that in, because it's well needed, because somebody has to do the job, but I don't want to do the job.
Thank you, Mr. Collins. That is your time. Okay, these next two questions are related, so I'm going to ask them together. To Mr. Collins, how much did the lawsuit against Janet Crowe cost the county or the taxpayers? And would it not have been easier to contact the Secretary of State directly instead of filing a lawsuit? 1 minute.
Okay, well, I'll answer the second part. I did contact them, and they said, we have no opinion on it. We will not give an opinion. And they would not do it. And as far as what it cost the taxpayers, zero. It cost zero. It was paid by friends of Presiding Commissioner Mark Collins. It cost nothing. What cost money was my opponent, whenever she put a petition out, and the county clerk's office had to verify all those signatures. That's what costs money. It costs zero for the county.
Thank you, Mr. Collins. Mrs. Crowe, rebuttal, 30 seconds.
Rebuttal. I have a hard time believing that Kelly Wagner's lawyer charged zero money to the county. I have a hard time believing that a judge would come over here from 3 counties away that wouldn't charge any money. This is all taxpayer dollars, so I'm just not buying what you're saying.
Well, I'm sorry. It did not charge zero, but he was paid by friends of Mark Collins.
And I had to pay.
I have a lady here that took the money in if she wants to stand up. I'll just leave it up to her.
All right.
I don't know if she's left or not, but
Let's move on. How many people make up the commission, Mrs. Crowe?
The county commission, 3.
And your rebuttal, Mr. Collins.
3. Yeah, there's always been 3. Presided and 2 associates, whether it's east and west or north and south. Here in the county, we have not redistricted. We're north and south.
Thank you, Mr. Collins. And we've circled back to this a couple of times, but it assumes that there was an outburst of some sort in the clerk's office the day that Mrs. Crowe filed. So first I want to ask you, Mr. Collins, was there an outburst of any sort on that day?
Not in my opinion. I come down, it's tradition. It's tradition that the last day of filing, the candidates come down there, and we kind of stand around and see what's going on. Okay, I come around, Miss Crowe was at the desk, and we'd had an issue with some agricultural ready signs being put up by the state. We couldn't get them put up, and I told her, and she said she'd take care of it. I went back to the break room, got a cup of coffee, and I stood back there with the treasurer and the recorder and the collector come in. To my recollection, no, there was not.
Thank you, Mr. Collins. Rebuttal, Mrs. Crowe.
Rebuttal. My opponent came down from upstairs, stood behind me in the corner while I waited, discussed those signs that he couldn't get hung up within 3 years' time. Pretty soon they finally came out from behind the other, because they were filing Brian Brower, which he had been standing behind before, and it went upstairs, I was told. So I'm sitting there getting ready to file. He's trying to find out what I'm doing. He's standing behind me. He stands to the side of me. When he heard I was filing for a collector, he walked around inside the desk. He stood behind the secretary filing and stood there and glared at me. And then he
That is your
walked to
time,
the corner
Mrs. Crowe.
10 minutes away and proceeded to have a
That's
fit.
30 seconds, Mrs. Crowe. Thank you. Okay, so those are all the questions that we've had submitted tonight. And here's my question to the candidates. The vitriol, the public interest that has been garnered, ultimately, do you think it's a good thing for the county? What has taken place in this action, the accusations, do you think it's a good thing for the county that there are this many people here tonight? Do you think it's good? 1 minute, Mr. Collins.
Well, yeah, I like to see people involved, but I don't like to see it just because it ended up being a smear campaign. I don't think that seemed to be what's got most of the interest here. I run a good, positive campaign. I have for the 7 or 8 that I've been through, and I will continue to do that.
Thank you, Mr. Collins. Rebuttal, Mrs. Crowe.
I believe this audience is in need of transparency in our county government. I believe the Good Old Boys Club needs to go bye-bye, and I'm hopefully here and voted to take part of that.
Thank you. Mrs. Crowe, you began with opening statements, so Mr. Collins, you may begin with your closing statements. You have 2 minutes, sir.
Okay, Amanda, thank you again for hosting the event. Also, thank you to those who came out this evening and those who are watching or listening out there over social media. In 19 days, the voters of Howell County will elect a county collector to serve for the next 4 years. This evening, we have not even skimmed the surface of the detailed responsibility that the collector's office has. Not even skimmed it. However, with my experience in county government, I believe that I can serve the taxpayers well and hit the ground running on day 1. It is an honor to be your conservative Republican candidate for Howell County Collector. I appreciate the support that the voters of Howell County have shown me in the past, and I would appreciate your vote and support on November 8th. Again, my goal is to continue with the parameters of the law to provide service in the collector's office, which we have all been accustomed to, expect, and deserve. My only objective is to serve the folks of Howell County, I have no axe to grind. I have no political agendas or desire to run for higher office. My home is Howell County, always will be Howell County. I love it, and this is where I want to be. So please get out and vote. Come November 8th, and vote for me, your Republican candidate for Howell County Collector. I love being your servant. I love being your servant. Again, thank you, and may God bless Howell County.
Thank you, Mr. Collins. Mrs. Crowe, 2 minutes.
Yes, I would like to thank Amanda for putting the debate on, and appreciate everybody in this audience for coming, and everybody that supported me through this whole last 6 months. I couldn't have done this without you. It is very simple. I am running to be a public servant to the citizens of Howell County. I am running for change and for transparency that needs to be brought to our county government. I am not part of the Good Old Boys Club. I am not a career politician of 26 years. I am not running for this office for a 6-figure salary or to pad a government retirement. I am also not the kind of person that sues the county that they work for or sues another elected official. I am not the kind of person that bullies, intimidates, and harasses a person and the office staff while another person is filing for office, which is what I experienced while filing for collector on March 29th. I am running on my qualifications and reputation of honesty and integrity. The difference between myself and my opponent are very clear by the way we conduct ourselves. I will continue to take the high road and work for change and transparency. I will always work in the best interests of the people of Howell County. I appreciate your vote for me to be your next Howell County Collector. Vote Janet Crowe, November 8th. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Crowe. I want to thank both of you for standing up here tonight. You both answered some very hard questions. You're both excellent stewards about it. And I'm so grateful for your willingness to stand here in front of these folks and answer all their questions and to answer my
Thank you.